Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go! Hey there! So this story goes back to a summer when I was 15 and my little sister was 9. I was all about that hustle, mowing lawns and babysitting to save up for a phone. Yeah, pretty big deal when you're a teen. Anyway, I'll be stashing away my hard-earned cash in this piggy bank in my room. You know, the one that looks like it's about to burst? One sunny day, after I finished my lawn mowing gig, I came home feeling pretty proud of my wallet's weight. I headed straight to my room to feed my piggy bank and bask in the glory of all those greens. But what do I find? My piggy bank empty, and my little sis sitting on my bed with my money spread out in front of her. At first, I thought she was just being her curious self, maybe counting it to see how much I had saved up. I asked her what was up, and her response caught me off guard to say the least. She scooped the money into her pocket, stood up, and announced, "Oh, I just need some money for the mall." Hold up, what? I was baffled. I mean, she was 9, and malls aren't exactly the place she'd be hanging out at, right? So I stepped in front of her, blocking her exit, and asked her how much she'd taken. "Oh, only 200. Don't worry," she said casually, like she had just borrowed a pencil. I was ready to lose it. I took that money right out of her pocket and basically yelled, "What do you mean only 200? That's all I've got. If you need money, just ask mom or dad." She spun around, and before I knew it, the waterworks started flowing, along with a chorus of "sharing is caring" and "what's mine is yours." Guess what? My parents heard the commotion and walked in, just in time for my sister to burst out that I wouldn't give her even a couple of dollars. What? I was the one seeing red now. My parents turned to me with raised eyebrows, and in no time I found myself in the middle of a heated argument. They were all for her, telling me to cut her some slack and hand over some cash. Can you believe it? I had to hand over $10 to my sister, and I was fuming. Like seriously, it wasn't jump change. It was my hard-earned money that I planned to use for my dream phone. The unfairness of it all gnawed at me while I tried to scarf down my dinner that evening. But wait, there is more. Dinner was a pretty awkward affair that night, with me sulking and my sister acting all smug. She refused to come out of her room to eat, and my mom went in to check on her. And guess what she found? My sister sitting in my room, counting my money again. It was like deja vu, but a lot worse this time. My sister tried to sneak the money into her pocket and make a run for it, but there was no escape this time. My mom was right there giving her the "you're in trouble" look, and my sister was concerned. Well, as you can imagine, things got intense. My sister was clinging to her entitled stance, claiming that it should be okay for her to take my money because who cares if she takes a little bit, and sharing is caring again. Seriously, the audacity of this kid. My mom finally had to intervene and take back the money. She even handed me back precious $10, which felt like a small victory at that point. Now I've got to give my sister some credit. She didn't back down entirely, but she did try to swipe my money a couple more times. But after the epic fail, it seemed like even she got the message. If she wanted something, she'd have to ask mom and dad, not just help herself to my stash. So yeah, that's the tale of my entitled sister versus my hard-earned money. I can't believe how worked up she got over my money, acting like it should belong to her just because she's my sister. I learned a lot from that whole ordeal, like how to stand my ground, and that sometimes even parents can get swayed by a few tears and a sob story. In the end, well, I guess it's that sharing might be caring, but it doesn't mean raiding your sibling's piggy bank. And honestly, that summer taught me way more about family dynamics than I ever thought it would. Well, let me start by saying that we live in one of those neighborhoods. You know, the kind where they have a homeowners association that seems to think that they run the entire universe. Picture perfect lawns, matching mailboxes, and a rule book longer than a bedtime story. So here is the deal. My dad, he is not getting any younger. One day he had this joint replacement surgery. and suddenly he couldn't move around like he used to. The doc said he needed some time to get back on his feet, quite literally. That's how we found ourselves in a situation of inviting him to live with us. My wife and I thought it would be no big deal, and our kids, oh boy, they were over the moon about their grandpa coming to stay. Think they were about to meet a superhero. Now we had to prepare for the grandpa's homecoming. The spare room got a thorough cleaning, and we moved out the old exercise equipment that had turned into a clothes rack ages ago. We stocked the fridge with his favorite food and made sure the TV remote had fresh batteries. Because let's be honest, what's a grandpa visit without a little TV time? The day he arrived, you'd think a celebrity was moving in. The kids were glued to the window, waiting for his car. And when he finally pulled up, obviously he wasn't the one driving, they sprinted to the front door like it was Christmas morning. That night, we all gathered around the dinner table, and I swear to God, you could almost see little heart emojis floating above everyone's head. Kids kept asking about his surgery like they thought he had a robot leg now or something. Did they give you a remote for your new hip, Grandpa? My younger one asked with a grin. Nah, no remote, he chuckled. But I do have a cool scar to show off. We talked and laughed like it was a family reunion, and I couldn't help but feel grateful that we had this time together. It was as if the whole house was buzzing with worms. After dinner, my wife nudged me and whispered, "You know, he's loving this." I nodded, looking at him sitting there swapping jokes with the kids. Yeah, I think he needed this as much as we did. Anyways, one day I'm pushing my dad's wheelchair down the sidewalk, just like any other day. We've been taking these walks to get him some fresh air, help him feel better after that surgery. First couple of days went without a hitch. Neighbors would wave, some even came over to say hi. But then of course, enter Karen. If you've ever heard of the term entitled, and of course you did, just know that Karen is like the queen of that club. And probably you know that too. So there we were, strolling along, when Karen pops out of nowhere, practically blocking our path. "Excuse me," she starts with that I'm in charge tone of hers. "Who is this with you?" I'm thinking, seriously lady, already was a rudeness? But I keep my cool and tell her, this is my dad. He's staying with us for a bit while he recovers from surgery. "Oh, I see," she says. Then comes the questions, one after the other. She's drilling me about everything. Why is he in a wheelchair? Since when is he here? Is that permanent or not? And so much more. I start answering, but then she gets into this territory that's none of her business. Like, why do you need to know that, Karen? So I tell her sorry, but that's a personal matter. I don't think I'm obligated to answer any of these intruding questions. Oh man, but that set her off. She starts going on about how this site isn't appreciated in the neighborhood. Like what she's talking about. My dad's just sitting there, not causing any trouble. And then she says it. The thing that pushed me over the edge. She calls my dad an eyesore. Or at least his wheelchair, I'm not sure. Either way, I swear my blood was boiling and I lost it. I started yelling at her that she has no right to judge or talk to us that way, and that she should never approach me or my dad again on our walks. She's still going on saying we shouldn't be out there, that it's ruining the neighborhood's aesthetic. I couldn't take it anymore. I tell her straight up, "Karen, if you don't back off right now, I am calling the cops for harassment." You should have seen her face. She turned all red, and I thought she might explode. But she eventually storms off, yelling and cursing like she's the one who got wronged. Before she disappears though, she throws out a final threat. If she catches us out again, she's going to make us regret it. I brushed it off at the time, thinking she's just spouting hot air. But little did I know just how far this whole situation was going to spiral out of control. A few days after the whole Karen showdown, I figured it's time to take my dad for another walk. This time I decided to bring the kids along. Turn it into a little family outing. We headed to that small park nearby and everything seemed cool at first. I left the kids at the playground for a moment to grab some ice cream for everyone from a stand nearby. I mean, what's a park trip without some sweet treats? But when I returned, my heart just dropped at the nightmarish scene I was seeing. There was Karen in the middle of a full-blown altercation with my oldest kid. He's trying to push her away while she's basically shoving him off and attacking him. And then I saw it. My dad on the ground, wheelchair tipped over, and my other two younger kids crying their eyes out. It was chaos. I'm not even sure how I managed to react so quickly. Adrenaline must be a powerful thing. I rushed over, pulled my kid away from Karen and got to my dad. He was on the ground looking dazed. I helped him back into his wheelchair gently, making sure he was okay. But then all my attention turned back to Karen. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. She had actually gone and done it. Obviously, she had pushed my dad out of his wheelchair, just like she threatened. I was seething at this point. I walked right up to her, barely containing myself. "Did you do this to my father?" I asked her with a raging voice. And you know what she did? That smug grin on hers grew wider, and she actually said, "Yes, I told you I'd make you regret it, and I wasn't lying." Before she could finish her twisted victory lap, I snapped. My fist connected with her face before I even realized what I was doing. It was like an explosion of pent-up frustration, a punch fueled by all the anger she had caused. I even noticed that a tooth of hers went flying, and she crumbled to the ground like a paper doll. I stood there breathing heavily, still processing what had just happened. The shock was written all over her face, like she couldn't believe I had actually fought back. But there she was, lying on the ground, and her smugness shattered along with her tooth. I turned back to my family, making sure everyone was okay. My dad was shaken, but alright. My older kid looked at me with concern, and the younger ones, well, they were still crying, but I could tell they felt safer now that I was there. After the whole chaos with Karen at the park, the police arrived. I was honestly worried she'd managed to spin the situation and paint me as a bad guy. You know how some people can turn on the waterworks and make themselves out to be victims? Well, that's exactly what she was doing. She was going on about how I had unprovoked hit her, how she was going to ruin me, take my house and drag me through courts until I had no money left. But you see, one of the cops wasn't buying her act. He had this look in his eye, like he saw right through her. He asked me to share my side of the story, and I did just that. Then he turned to the kids and some of the witnesses who were there. It was like a courtroom drama playing out in the middle of the park. Turns out one smart teen had been filming the whole thing on their phone. He was filming his friend skating nearby when he heard the commotion and turned to see Karen pushing my dad off his wheelchair. And he even got her admitting to it on camera when I asked her if she was the one that did it. It was a game changer, a piece of evidence that turned the tables completely. The cop watched the video and I could see his expression change from skepticism to understanding. I guess it's true what they say, karma has a funny way of catching up to you. The tables turned swiftly. Suddenly, Karen went from a woman claiming to be a victim to a woman in handcuffs being escorted to the police car. She was yelling, screaming, and throwing a fit, but there was no escape from the truth caught on camera. After the cops took her away in their car, we started to all calm down a bit. But there was one thing that was still weighing on my mind: my dad's fall. I couldn't shake off the worry that the impact might have caused some damage to his surgery. So we headed to the hospital to get him checked out. Turns out my worries were on point. The fall had caused some implant displacement, and the doctor said that he needed another surgery to fix it. It was a setback for sure, but we were determined to get him back on his feet, quite literally. As for Karen, well, justice wasn't about to let her off the hook. She was charged with aggravated assault, battery, and assault on a vulnerable person among other charges. And you know what? She got herself a cozy 10-year stay in prison. If it was up to me, I'd send her to life in prison, but honestly, I'm fine with 10. Now fast forward a bit, in less than 2 years, my dad was making amazing progress. He underwent the surgery, followed the rehab regimen like a champ, and he was walking again, no crutches needed. It was amazing to watch him rise up again, especially after what he went through. And the best part was that we could finally take him and the kids back to that same park without fearing a Karen lurking around the corner. We had a beautiful outing just like we had intended from the very start. He was walking alongside his grandchildren, seeming as happy as you could imagine. Life sure has its ups and downs, its Karens and its challenges, but as long as you've got family, the support of those who care about you to face whatever comes your way, you can weather any storm. And in the end, it's not the entitled people who define your story. It is how you react to their insane demands. My wife is currently battling cancer, and one of the things she's told me she's struggling with the most was losing her hair. She's been given a near 100% chance of survival since we got it early, but the chemotherapy had destroyed her hair anyway, and she had to shave what was left of it off a few weeks ago. Not long after that, she suggested we attempt to get our 17-year-old daughter Anna to do so as well. Anna has very long hair that she puts a lot of care into, so I felt it was appropriate to ask her in private if she wanted to / would be willing to do such a thing. She told me that she didn't want to cut her hair, and I figured that was the end of that. However, yesterday they came home from a girls' shopping trip, something they do every so often, and Anna had a buzzed haircut. That struck me as odd after what she said. So after dinner I talked to her, and she told me that my wife had said she would never forgive Anna if she didn't show her support by buzzing her hair. I asked her if she was happy about it, and she said that she wasn't. When I went to bed, I brought it up with my wife and she said, "It was Anna's choice to do that or not, and I just told her how I'd see the situation." I told her off, saying she needed to respect Anna's personal choices and that a 17-year-old girl being against shaving her head wasn't exactly out of the ordinary. However, my wife simply said it was to show support for her. I've been sleeping on a couch since. I love my wife and I understand that she's going through something traumatic. However, her attitude comes off as very manipulative to me, and that's not a behavior I feel I can personally accept. I'm not sure if I can move past this to continue the relationship, to be honest. Am I being the jerk here? And now some comments on the post. One person says, "Not the jerk. Your wife is a flaming jerk. I'm sorry that she has cancer, but what she did to your daughter was very abusive. If she's unable to deal mentally with her disease and treatment, then she needs professional help, not to manipulate and coerce your daughter into making a choice that she didn't want to make. Make no mistake, she abused your daughter. Honestly, cancer or no cancer, if I were in your shoes, I would seriously be considering divorce, if only to get your daughter to safety." Another commenter adds, "I'm guessing this isn't the first time OB's wife has given her daughter reason to stop talking to her the second she's able to. This level of emotional blackmail doesn't come out of nowhere. And no, having cancer doesn't suddenly turn you into a raging piece of crap. OP, this particular tale will haunt your daughter for the rest of her life. Your home is not a safe place for your daughter emotionally or mentally because her mother had made it very, very clear that her daughter's comfort meant nothing to her. Your wife is bitter and cruel and has decided to force her daughter to shave her head because she herself has had to lose her hair. That's abuse. You need to reevaluate a couple things and do what you can to provide your daughter a safe environment while she's still at home. Specifically, you need to ensure your daughter knows that you will always be her advocate and that she can call you if she needs you to come get her or intervene between you and your wife. If she doesn't have her own cell phone with your number in it, you need to get her one right now. A third commenter goes with, "Not the jerk. Your wife wanted to use your daughter as a prop to her cancer. She knows she's going to survive, presumably, but she wants the attention she will get from it. Forcing your daughter to sacrifice something that is probably very memorable about her so people can gush about it is her way of getting more attention. It's unbelievably toxic what she's done. The manipulation is honestly shocking. The power behind showing support through shaving your head for a cancer patient is that it's unasked and voluntary. Just asking or demanding someone shave their head because you have cancer is honestly wild." And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.